just coming to the room and relaxing and breathing deeply, letting go of the day. So we're going to start the class as always lying on our backs in horse pose. So let's go barefoot as well. Socks on. Just contact with the ground. So have the feet out to mat width and take the spine back along the mat, flattening out the back of the body, allowing the shoulder blades to spread comfortably. Taking the hands just wide enough, palms can turn up comfortably, and allow the feet to fall out to the sides. In relaxed posture, feeling back of the pelvis against the mat, length of the spine, back of the shoulders. Tap the chin a little bit so the back of the neck is also warm. And breathing deeply in through the nostrils and out through the nostrils. Long, slow, deep breaths. Breathing in for the count of 5. And exhaling for 5. Inhaling for 4. And exhaling for 4. Inhaling for 3. And exhaling for 3. Inhaling for 2. And exhaling for 2. Inhale for 1. Exhaling on the count of 1. Inhaling for nothing. And exhaling, just letting go of the breath. Letting it flow out naturally under its own pressure and dissolve outwardly into the atmosphere. For the next inhale, I'd like to take a full body stretch, arms coming up overhead, pointing out through the fingertips, pointing out through the toes, stretching, stretching, stretching. And then relax the stretch, leave the arms where they are. Stretch once more. Both arms, both legs on the exhale, knees come to the chest, hands around the shins, and draw the knees down towards the chest and make small circles on the mat with your lower back, a few in each direction, clockwise and anti-clockwise. Just easing out the lower back, softening the spine, warming up in the hip joints. So now we're going to come into rolling bridge, so I'd like you to take the feet to the floor with the knees bent, knees pointing up, arms in beside you, palms facing down, and we're going to start peeling the back away from the mat. Take the hand grip on the mat with the palm flat, fingers spread, and with an outward rotation of the left hand, an outward rotation of the right hand, so anti-clockwise with the left hand, clockwise with the right hand, with your grip, arms straight, forearms against the outsides of the hips. On the inhale, we're peeling the back away from the mat, lower back, middle back, upper back, until we have a straight line, knees and hips down the length of the spine to the shoulders. On the exhale, rolling back down the way you come up, starting with the upper back, then the middle back, then the lower back, pelvis and sacrum comes down last. Tilt the pelvis slightly, inhale and exhale, and then inhale to come all the way up. Still maintaining the grip on the mat with your hands. Push it down through the backs of the arms now, and then exhaling, rolling back down the way you came up, softening from the upper, middle, lower, pelvis, sacrum comes down last. Keep that going in time with your own breath, coming up on the inhale and coming back down on the exhale. If you want to, you can push back a little bit further onto the shoulders, maybe take the arms up overhead so you come back further onto the shoulders, maybe walk the feet in a little bit further towards the sit bones. On the exhale, coming back down all the way with the spine first, and then bring the arms back down last as you do the tilt, tuck, inhale to lift. And then exhaling, leaving the arms where they are, rolling back down the way you came up, and arms come back down last. Okay, so we're going to go and do a few belly twists now, so keeping the knees bent and the feet in towards the sit bones. We're going to take the arms out to shoulder height, bring the feet together, and we're going to take the knees to the right, stacking the left foot on top of the right foot. And then you can push down a little bit more with the left knee into the right knee, so you're rotating the hips out to the side, but keeping the whole length of the left arm flat on the floor, the left shoulder blade as well, palms flat, fingers spread. And if it's comfortable on the neck, you can, from looking up, you can look along the length of your left arm, down towards the left little finger. Pushing with the left knee into the right, and then inhaling to come back up and changing sides, taking the knees to the left, pushing with the right knee into the left knee. If it's comfortable, take the head to look right along the length of the right arm. So rotating the hips over to the left by pushing the right knee into the left knee, pressing, 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 and then inhale, coming all the way up. Let's do that again. So maybe bring the heels a little bit closer to the sit bones and do that again. Exhaling to come over to the right, inhaling to come up center, exhaling to come over to the left, and then inhaling to come up center. Do a few more of those in time with your own breath. Exhaling to take the knees over, inhaling to bring the knees upright. Just keep that going, a few more, an equal number on both sides. And then when you're ready, we're going to start doing a sit-up. So we're going to take the hands, take the feet together and the knees out wide and the hands up overhead. And then with the hands in prayer, we're going to bring them down past the face, over the chest, and as we bring the heels of the palms to the chest, we'll bring the head and shoulders off the mat. And then roll back down the way we came up. And then a little bit quicker, and see if we can start building up a little bit of momentum to perhaps sit up a little bit higher each time until perhaps we can come up to a seated posture. So if you come to the seated posture, or when you come to the seated posture, push yourself up with the hands if you need to. Bring the knees upright again and hold just below the knees to flatten out the back. So we're pushing the small of the back through to the belly button, spine flat, neck in line with the spine, and leaning back on the sit bones. So you'll feel the heels and maybe then the toes coming off the floor. At that point you can hold behind the thighs and bring the shins parallel to the floor, pointing out the toes. So if you can do it without the back rounding in like this, then you can let go of the hands and work on straightening the legs. But if it's uncomfortable, just keep holding behind the thighs so you can probably smooth the back through to the belly button and keep the spine nice and flat. So this is the boat pose, and now we're going to do some dips to warm up the abdominal muscles. So on the inhale, 5, exhaling for 5, inhaling for 4, exhaling for 4, inhaling for 3, exhaling for 3, inhaling for 2, exhaling for 2, inhaling for 1, exhaling for 1, inhaling for nothing, and hold. And then bringing the legs back up. So now we're going to rock backwards and forwards along the length of the spine, holding behind the thighs, building up a little bit of momentum. Okay, so if you know how to do it, you can rock up to standing without using your hands. If you don't know how to do that, just watch for a moment. So whilst we're rocking backwards and forwards, building up a little bit of momentum, on the last one forwards, we'll take hold from behind the thighs and hold instead in front of the shins. Pull ourselves into a small, tight little ball as possible, taking the head towards the knees, drawing the shins down as close as we can towards the belly. So that's on the last one forwards, and what should happen is you'll get some acceleration and rock forward a little bit more. So build up the momentum first, and then hold in front of the shins, draw yourself into a tight ball, and see if you can rock over onto the soles of the feet. Maybe helps if you take the feet out just a little bit wider first, and then inhale, coming up to standing. So just do a gentle standing side stretch before we move into the main sequence, which will be Surya Namaskar B, sun salutations with a few add-ons. So take the stretch down towards the left side, taking the left middle finger down the seam of the pants on the left, feet nice and wide, and just allowing the stretch to happen into the right thighs muscle, just allowing the weight of the right arm to bring us over. And then you can look down at the left ankle, maybe turn the palm up towards the ceiling and push towards the top left corner of the room before inhale coming over, and we'll change sides. So left bicep to the left ear, pushing the hips out to the left and taking the right middle finger down the seam of the pants on the right side as far as we can go, keeping the body in that nice flat plane, aligned in one plane. And then once you've sunk into that as far as you can turn the palm up towards the ceiling, push and increase the stretch up the side ribs. Getting a nice stretch all the way from the base of the ribs up to the shoulder. And then inhaling, coming up right. We're going to bring the feet in together and do that again. So bring the feet in close so at least the big toes are touching. And then standing upright, right bicep to right ear, and leaning over to the left. Hips go right, that way. And then supporting your weight a little bit as you fold forward by pressing the left hand into the side of the left thigh. Once you're as far over as you can turn the palm and push, increase the stretch. And then coming up and over, left bicep to left ear, hips push out to the left. Leaning over, relaxing into the side fold and then turning the palm, push into a more dynamic stretch. And then inhale. This time we're going to take the right foot across the left foot. So stepping the right foot over the left foot, and then we should be able to lean a little bit further over towards the left. Getting the passive stretch first, and then the dynamic stretch. And then changing, crossing the right back over the left, and then the left over the right. Leaning over, getting the passive stretch first, and then making it dynamic. So maybe you can reach up and take hold of the wrist and come into light. So sometimes we do this posture, which I call a banana bend when we're lying down. Same thing, pretty much in the standing position, making it a little bit more dynamic. And then when you've done an even number each side, I haven't, so I'm going to. Then you can come back to standing. So we're going to start in Tadasana, which is mountain pose. It's called mountain pose in Hatha yoga. There are some disciplines which don't call this mountain pose. They call it something like equal standing, and mountain pose is a different pose for them. But in the Hatha yoga tradition, the Shivananda Hatha yoga tradition, this is what we call mountain pose. Terminology doesn't really matter all that much. It's not worth getting into arguments with other people that call it different things. It's just different traditions use different words for different postures sometimes. So we're going to take a rotation. So like I explained with the outward rotation of the hands, we're going to do the same with the feet, so that the left foot has got an outward rotation or an anti-clockwise rotation, the right foot has got a clockwise rotation. So we're gripping Pada Bandha, base of the big toe, between the ball of the big toe and the ball of the second toe, and with the outside edge of the heel. So that's the 2 points where we're getting that rotational grip into the mat. Same with the right foot. So right foot is clockwise, left foot is anti-clockwise. We've got this nice strong grip into the mat. This might also be bringing the hips forward a little bit, so we engage the belly muscles just enough that we can bring the hips back so they're stacked above the knees, above the ankles, and then the spine can be nice and upright. Front thighs are a little bit engaged, so that the kneecaps are a little bit lifted and staying within the groove so that they don't rub on the meniscus on one side or the other. So Tadasana Mountain pose.
Nice, calming, relaxing posture. Just breathing in, maybe allowing the eyes to close or go soft. Ready for our Surya Namaskar, sun salutations. So relaxing at the shoulders, bringing the palms together in front of the belly, and then inhale, scooping with the little finger edge of the palms, of the hands. The hands are coming in prayer past the face and then overhead. So keep the shoulders relaxed down away from the ears at this point. Allow the weight of the arms to carry the arms down into the shoulder sockets. Avoid hunching up around the ears. Once the hands come above the face, we can start taking a little bit of a back bend, keeping the hips above the knees and above the ankles, but taking the spine into a slight back bend and using the back muscles to support you. And then on the exhale, straighten up the torso, relaxing into the shoulders, hands past the face in prayer to the heart center, with the elbows and wrists in one straight line, parallel to the floor. So once we've got this and we've got the thumbnails touching against the sternum bone, we can start the forward fold, where we start by taking the hips back. So you bring your attention from the center of the body here down to the hips, and the hips are going back. So we take the hips back and then compensate for the extra weight in the heels by taking the bend at the hips so that the weight stays even between the front of the feet and the heels. So forward folding with a flat back. At some point you'll get to where you can't bend any further forward with a flat back. Your hamstrings up here and maybe in the lower back will stop you doing that. So at that point you bend the knees to bring the belly onto the front thighs, and then bend the knees some more to come into a squat. So you can place the hands on the floor next to the feet, fingers and toes in line. Palms are flat, fingers spread, and we've got that outward rotation with the hands. This time we're gripping with the base of the index finger and the outside edge of the palm. So then pushing more into the palms, we can take that right foot back in a long lunge and then sink the hips a little bit, allow the hips to sink so we get a straight stretch up the front of the thigh, and also a straight line from the ankle up the length of the leg. So we've got to push out through the back of the knee slightly. If it's uncomfortable, you can lower the knee to the mat. Otherwise, pushing out through the back of the knee, getting that nice straight line and stretching the inside front of the right thigh. At the same time, pulling the mat towards you, inhaling, gaze comes forward, out and up, chest comes forward, out and up. Equestrian pose, Ashwi Salanchalasana. And then flattening out the back, taking more weight into the palms. We're now pressing with the heels of the palms so we can release that left foot into a straight line plank, Kumbhakasana, the breath retention posture. So from here we're going to, you can practice holding this posture with the breath or just with shallow breathing, but from here we're going to roll forward on the toes and then bring the knees down. And then pushing into the palms, we're taking the elbows back towards the hips, the sides of the ribs are coming onto the backs of the arms, resting on the backs of the arms. So this is supporting you as you come down into action, a standing Namaskar, the 8-point pose. Chest and chin come down together. So you now have both hands, both feet, both knees, chest and chin on the floor. That's 8 points. Ashta means 8. A standing Namaskar, 8-point salutations, point pose. And then release the toes. Pull the mat towards you with the hands. No weight in the hands. So we're not pushing, we're pulling with the hands to assist with bringing the chest up and the gaze up. And we're just using the muscles in the back to curve the spine and lift the head off the mat. So the elbows can be relaxing down towards the mat, but just pulling the mat towards you. Chest up, gaze up. And then on the exhale, we're going to flatten out the back a little bit, push down to the knees to elevate the hips, tuck the toes, and then do a half push up on the knees. So pushing strongly into the palms, keeping the back flat, not collapsing into the back. And you can shuffle the knees forward a little bit if you like, pushing the hips back towards the sit bones. Once you're nearly there, you can then push down to the toes, so the knees come up, and we're into our first downward facing dog. So for the first one, you can experiment with the posture a little bit, maybe try swaying the hips from side to side, pedaling up the heels, just loosening up into this posture, the key resting posture in Hatha Yoga. Trikonasana, downward facing dog. So we're working on getting the chest back towards the thighs and a bit of either a flat back or a little bit of a back bend. So if I show you from the side,
hopefully you'll see that my back is either flat or a slight back bend even, and I'm not rounding up. So we're working on pushing with the hands, allowing the shoulders to go into the arm sockets, and we're pushing back with the hands, pushing forward with the balls of the toes. We're taking the apex of the, we're taking the tailbone into the apex of a V, inverted V at the highest point. Okay, so then from downward facing dog, we're going to come into a three-legged dog. So we're going to point the right toes as far as we can along the mat behind us, keeping that leg straight, keeping the hips level, so avoid this hip popping up as the leg lifts. We're just hinging at the hip, taking the right leg behind, pointing out the toes, and then pushing into that right wrist to get that tip of the toe as far as we can from the wrist. And then once you've got it as far as you can come onto the left toes, get a little bit of extra height, bend the knee, keeping the knee high, and then start rippling the spine up towards the ceiling as the knee travels forward, flex the foot, lower back, middle back, back rippling up. Step the foot as far forward as you can without the palms lifting. If it doesn't come all the way forward, no problem, take the hand behind the ankle, give it a helping hand forward, hand comes back to your marker position. Sinking into the hip, pushing up through the back of the knee, allowing the ankle to go soft so we're straightening out that left leg. So we're in Ashwi Salanchalasana or Equestrian pose on the opposite side, on the left side this time. So from here we're going to come into a warrior sequence. So we're going to kick that left foot out to the left 1 foot width and then ground the heel. So pivot on the ball of the foot, ground the heel, and now we're pushing down more into the right foot, pulling the mat towards us. Might get a stretch on the back of the hamstring there. Keeping that back leg straight, pulling the mat towards you to bring the chest up and gaze up. Continue that movement going from the fingertips, and then you can bring the hands together and start taking the shoulders above the hips, bring the torso upright, and then the. So now we have the legs in a straddle lunge, long lunge, and we're sweeping up. So like we did for standing back bend at the beginning of the sequence, we're taking the arms up above the face, but the legs are in a different position. So relax into this position, Virabhadrasana 1 or Warrior 1. So you don't have to come this far into the posture. You can, here is perfectly good with the hands at 45 degrees in front of the face, but you might be able to get the hands above the face and the fingertips pointing back. From here we're going to straighten up the torso, turn the torso out to the side, spread the arms, Warrior 2. So relaxing the shoulders so that the arms are parallel with the floor. Now we're going to turn the front palm, come into some warrior, taking the palm above the face and leaning back. So the hips are now off to about 45 degrees. And then we're going to windmill the arms over, coming all the way back to our equestrian pose. Back, pivot on the toes again so the heel comes off the floor, and start transferring the weight forward. You push off the back toes. So we're taking the weight into the front foot, both palms, and eventually you can push into the palms, bring the knees together, bring the feet to the marker position which we start from, and then inhale, half standing forward bend. So we're working on getting flat back, straight legs, and working down towards touching the mat. If you can't reach the mat with flat back, straight legs, you can take the hands up the outsides of the legs. Once the hamstrings start loosening, you might be able to reach the mat. On the exhale, we're going to bend the knees a lot. Head comes to the knees, hands back to marker position, pivoting on that middle finger. If you took the palms forward, that's optional. And then pushing down to the palms to bring the hips high, or as high as you can get them with the hamstrings as they are. And then inhale, we're going to come onto the fingertips again, bring the front thighs parallel to the floor. And we can either come into a chair with the arms ahead, or you can take the hands to the front thighs and push yourself up, supporting your weight. So shoulders down away from the ears as we come back into Hatha, Trikonasana, standing back bend. And then on the exhale, straighten the torso, hands come past the parallel centre, and then release the hands back into Tadasana Mountain pose. We're going to do that again on the opposite side. I'll talk through again. So on the inhale, hands come in front of the lower belly in prayer. And just the arms lifting,
allowing the weight of the arms to keep the shoulder, the balls of the shoulder joint down into the shoulder socket, not using the muscles above the shoulders to support the arm raise. Engage in the belly muscles and using the back muscles to support you in the standing back bend. And then straighten up the torso, hands come past the face in prayer to the heart centre. Nice straight line, elbows through the wrists. Thumbnails touch the sternum bone. It's like you just press the switch to take the hips back. Taking the hips back flat, back straight legs. Listen to what's happening in the feet. Whether you have more weight in the front of the feet or more weight in the heels. If you have more weight in the heels, do more of a forward fold. If you have more weight in the front feet, take the hips back further. So adjusting as you feel the balance change. And then once you've got as far forward as you can with flat back and straight legs, then bend the knees, bring the belly on the front thighs, hands to the floor, and look back towards the knees. So we're coming into our equestrian pose on the left side, so we're going to step back with the left foot long lunge, sink the hips, and pull the mat towards us, chest up, gaze up. So most of the weight on the front is in the foot rather than in the hands, so we're not really supporting with the hands, we're just pulling the mat towards us. And it's the heel is really taking all the weight of the front body. And then taking the weight back into the palms, pushing into the palms so that you can release that foot. So the weight comes out of the foot and back into the palms. Straight line plank Trikonasana, holding the breath, and then when you can't hold the breath any longer, exhaling, lowering the knees down, chest and chin come down together, rolling forward on the toes to bring the knees down. Staying in Namaskar 8-point pose. Both toes, both knees, chest, chin and both hands. Release the toes, inhale, slide the chest forward between the hands in a baby cobra, Bhujangasana. So pulling the mat towards you, but no weight in the hands. Using just the back muscles to take the back bend and get the head up. On the exhale, flattening out the back, pressing into the knees to elevate the hips, tuck the toes, half push up. And then pushing back towards the child's pose. Make sure you've got the hand position right, fingers nice and spread, middle finger pointing forward. So bring the ears in line with the biceps, just as you push more into the palms to bring the hips up. And then we're pushing forward on the toes, pushing back with the palms, squeezing the tailbone into the apex of the V, and then we're going to now soften that by taking the left toes back. So as you can see, as I do that, the right heel coming down towards the mat. Hopefully you can see that. So let's do that again. So as we soften, pointing out the left toes, we come back as far as we can, and we elevate the leg, hinging at the hip, avoiding that left hip popping up, just hinging at the hip, pushing into that left wrist to get the left toes high, coming off the toe of the right foot, bending the knee, and then flexing the foot, ripping the spine up towards the ceiling, and stepping forward as far as we can, helping hand if we need to, sinking the hip, pushing up through the back of the knee, back in equestrian pose. We're going to kick that right foot out, 1 foot width to the right, pivot on the ball of the foot, ground the heel, pull the mat towards us, coming onto the fingertips, and then coming into the warrior one. And then turn the hips out to the side, so the hips are now parallel with the long edge of the mat, spreading the arms, softening the shoulders, turning just the head to look back to the front. And then we're going to change direction again, so scooping with the front hand and then pivoting backwards, so taking the torso backwards, hand up over the face, right hand to the back of the right knee. Sun warrior. And then we're going to windmill the arms all the way over, back to equestrian pose. Coming up, so pivot on the ball of the foot, come off the heel, and then we're going to work into pushing off the back toes and bring the knees together. So pushing down the palms, bring the knees together. Inhale, half standing forward bend. Exhale, standing forward bend. Inhale, sink the front thighs parallel to the floor, and then we can start bringing the chest forward, gaze up, arms can follow in a chair and come all the way up to standing on. Support yourself on the front thighs, your choice. Shoulders relax down away from the ears. and back to our standing back bend. Straighten up torso, hands come past the face in prayer heart center, and release to Tadasana Mountain pose. Okay, we'll run through that sequence just another time, and maybe put in the Shadow Warrior, or optional, you could come out of Warrior 2 into Warrior 3 if you prefer. So let's show you that first. Most of you will know this, but just let me show you that move. So this is the option. You don't have to do this. I'm going to stand on this board, on this mat, which has a board underneath, so the other mats are very squashy, they're just on gym mats. So from here, let's just show you the Warrior 1, Warrior 2, Warrior 3. So starting in the equestrian pose, stepping out the foot, pivoting on the heel, chest up, Warrior 1, Warrior 2. So coming from Warrior 2 into Warrior 3, you can see this left hand's going all the way back. We're going to keep that left hand coming back, keep the right arm where it is. As we keep the left arm coming down and back, we're going to start squaring the hips towards the short edge of the mat, so they come parallel, and the shoulders come parallel to the short edge of the mat too. And then when that left arm's come all the way around full circle, we can use the arms as a counterbalance to bring the foot off. And then we can bring the hands back to the mat and come into our half standing forward bend from there. So if you prefer, then we can go from some warrior, instead of into Warrior 3, instead of Warrior 2 to Warrior 3, we can go from Warrior 2 to some warrior. So we'll be in Warrior 2, some warrior, and then Shadow Warrior looking at the back heel, and then pivoting the arms all the way over, back to our equestrian pose, and then inhale up, half standing forward bend. So this is your choice whether you want to do Warrior 3. Only do it if you're comfortable, you know how to do Warrior 3, and as an option. Okay, so I'll carry on doing the Sun Warrior, reverse Sun Warrior, and back to equestrian pose. So, but if you want to break at that point and do Warrior 2 to Warrior 3, if you know the sequence, then please do that, if you have the space and you know you're comfortable with it. Okay, so let's come back into Tadasana with mountain pose. Gripping the mat with the feet, getting that spiral of energy coming all the way up the legs, maybe feeling the hips trying to come forward, so engaging the core to bring the hips back so we're stacked, and the weight is even between the heels and between the balls of the feet. And then the spine can be nice and upright on that strong solid base. Slight outward rotation of the upper arm, so the shoulder blades are pushing into the back ribs, and the shoulder blades are pressing into the back ribs, pushing the chest forward, and then widening out the shoulder girdle so the arms can hang nice and loosely from this slightly widened shoulder girdle. Head is upright, like you're being drawn up towards the ridge pole with a cord from the top of your head. So coming back into sun salutations, hands together, inhaling, and then exhaling as we come into the forward fold. Listen to what's going on in the feet. Flat back, straight legs, bend the knees when you need to, plant the hands, look to your knees, inhale, push into the palms, step back, long lunge to the back right corner of the mat. Head up, gaze up, pulling the mat towards you, retain the breath, step back to straight line plank. Lower down, knees, chest, chin, and then inhale into a cobra. Exhale, pushing back into downward facing dog, and then inhaling, taking the right leg up behind, three-legged dog, avoiding that right hip popping up, pushing into the right wrist to get the right big toe as far as you can from the wrist, nice straight line, then bend the knee stays high, come onto the toes of the left foot, create more space, lifting up from the tailbone, the lower back, the middle back, the upper back as you step forward with the right foot. Kick the left foot out to the left foot width, pivot on the toe ground, heel, pull the mat towards you, start peeling the palms off the mat, coming with the fingertips, and then pushing down more into the heel so we can scoop up with the hands, keeping the knee above the ankle, bring the hands together into a prayer position, and taking the hands up over the face, relaxed in the shoulders, relaxed in the face. Warrior 1. Straighten out the torso, turning out to the left, spreading the arms. If you want to, you can keep that back arm going and come to warrior 3, otherwise stay with me, looking down towards the hand, and then bring the hand up over the face. Some warrior. If you're in warrior 3, come into the forward fold. If you're with me, turn and look at the back heel. Reverse some warrior or shadow warrior. Turn the hand up towards the ceiling, push, dynamic stretch. Then windmill the arms over, equestrian pose, and join everybody else in the half standing forward bend. Inhale. Exhale, standing forward bend. Inhale from chair and up to standing. And back to Tadasana Mountain pose. Let's go straight through. Inhaling. And exhaling, forward fold, flat back and straight legs, hips go back, torso folds forward at the hips. Plant the hands, bend the knees, look back towards the knees. Inhale, step back with the left leg, long lunge, and pull the mat towards you. Equestrian pose, pushing up through the back of the knee, straighten out the torso, take the weight into the hands, so we release the weight out of the right foot, and come into a straight line plank. Kumbhakasana, breath retention posture, holding the breath. And then on the exhale, lower down knees, chest and chin, taking the sides of the ribs onto the backs of the arms, chest and chin together, release the toes, inhale, baby cobra, pulling the mat towards you. Exhaling, flattening out the back, pushing into the knees, tucking the toes, half push up, and then back to your downward facing dog. So now it's left foot behind, three-legged dog. Pushing into the left wrist, pointing out the left toes, onto the toes of the right foot, bending the left knee, heel comes to the sit bone, flex the foot as you ripple the spine up towards the ceiling, making a lot of space underneath the chest for that knee to travel into. Pull the mat towards you slightly as you kick the foot forward, and then kick the right foot out to the right one, foot width, ground the heel. And then inhaling, coming up into your warrior 1. Exhaling, warrior 2. Keep that right arm going if you want to, and come to warrior 3, otherwise stay with me. Changing direction, allow the hips to come off at about 45 degrees, hand up above the face, and then coming to the dynamic, more dynamic reverse sun warrior, shadow warrior, shielding, and then move the arms over, hands to the floor, off the back heel, and then pushing off the toes, coming up into half standing forward bend. Exhale, standing forward bend, and then inhale from a chair up to standing, and we're back to Tadasana Mountain pose. How are we doing time? We're doing quite well for time. Okay, so we're now going to go into the asana where we'll hold the posture for a minute or so. So let's see what I have planned for you today. Okay, so for those that didn't do Warrior 3 yet, we're going to just re-practice that. So as a taught asana. So we'll start with the body in Tadasana, and then we'll lean over to the right, take the weight out to the left foot, step back with the left leg into, so we have the legs in the straddle stretch, in the straddle position, like we were going to come into a Warrior 1. Okay, so from here we're going to take the hands onto the right front thigh, and then hinge at the hips, keeping everything else where it is. Bring the torso parallel to the floor. And once the torso is parallel to the floor, we can push more into those hands to start working on straightening the legs, pushing off the back toes slightly. Bring the torso forward until we reach the balance point. So when we get to the balance point, you'll feel all the weight coming out of the left big toe, and then it's just a matter of hinging at the hip to lift that leg up, parallel with the floor, pointing up the toe. Once you're comfortable and balanced, you can work on extending the arms ahead of you, biceps in behind the ears. And then coming back to, hands back to the thigh, and step up. So let's try that again on the other side. So from Tadasana, I'm going to transfer the weight over onto the left, taking the weight out to the right foot, so we can get the heel off the floor, and step back in a long lunge. So the board under this mat is not about 2/3 the width of the the mat, so I haven't got a full mat width here to work with. So here we're going to place the hands on the front left thigh, pushing out through the back of the right knee slightly as we, so it's kind of a dynamic fold, so we're pushing really through the back of the right thigh and the back of the right knee a little bit as we resist with the left foot, so that there's this very controlled forward fold with the torso, keeping the back flat, hinging just at the hips, not rounding forward in the back. And then once you have the torso parallel with the floor, then you can start pushing off the back toes and working towards the balance point. So the further back you've got that foot, the easier that becomes actually. And then once you reach the balance point, hinging at the hip, lifting the right foot up, pointing out the right toes, and then when you're comfortable and balanced, which I'm not, change slightly. So then when you're comfortable and balanced, you can work on extending the arms, biceps in line with the ears. And the hands back to the front thigh, bring the feet back to Tadasana, sink to the hips slightly so you can come up with a flat back. Okay, so warrior three. If it wasn't comfortable, you can use a wall, so you can, or something, so you can have the hands against a support, like a wall or something. I don't have space. So you can work on, if you don't have a squashing floor, you can work on bringing the legs up with the hands pushing against the wall like this. So ideally you have a wall so you can have the hands separated at shoulder width rather than gripping a single point. Okay, so the other way of practicing with warrior three, again it's going to be difficult for me to show you, but would be to have the foot, the back foot against the wall. So we'd have, it needs to be just far enough from the wall to do this. So leaning a little bit into the back, into the wall, so you're pressing into the heel a little bit so you can then bring the hands forward. It's the other way of practicing warrior three if you're not yet comfortable with it. Okay, we're going to move on and we're going to practice, I think it's, yes, reverse Trikonasana. Okay, so last week I showed you Trikonasana, the intense triangle. Today we're going to look at reverse Trikonasana, which is similar but it's the other way around, obviously. So we're going to step back first of all with the left foot. So with Trikonasana we try and keep the legs in a straight line. With reverse Trikonasana we want the width of the hips still between the feet. So this foot slides back, and if you have a mat with a line down the centre, your heel should still be the same distance from the centre line as when you started. So if you started with them like 8 inches apart and 4 inches each side of the centre line, then the heels should still be 4 inches each side of the centre line, so that you can have the hips parallel to the short edge of the mat. Okay, so we're going to lean forward with the torso. You can support yourself on the front thighs, we did for the warrior three, and then reach down with the hand to the inside of the instep. So we've got left hand to the inside of the right instep. We can push down more into the wrist, pivot the fingertips a little bit so they're like 45 degrees pointing in. And then we're going to start taking the shoulders out towards the right. So we can use this hand to kind of like dig the heel into the mat and push us out towards the side, so the left shoulder's coming towards the right knee. And we can start looking up towards the ceiling, past the right shoulder. Once we're there, we can take the right elbow up, right hand up, and then lean more weight into the left hand and work on straightening the right leg. So pushing into the right heel, supporting the weight in the left hand, working on straightening the leg. When you're done, bring the arm back and down, bending into the knee again, pivot back on the hand, step forward, hands to front thighs, coming up to standing. Let's change sides and look at it again. So again, with the feet parallel, we're going to step back with the right foot this time, and then hips parallel to the short edge of the mat. Support your weight on the front thighs, fold forward, torso parallel to the mat,
place the right hand on the floor next to the left instep and rotate on the palm a little bit so you can start pulling the right shoulder towards the left knee. So pulling the right shoulder towards the left knee. You can even be pushing down a little bit, as long as you can make sure this knee isn't rolling in, so the knee needs to stay above the ankle. But you can be pushing down through the front thigh to help get that rotation as you pull with this arm. Getting the right shoulder towards the left knee, rotating the head up towards the ceiling, and then lifting left elbow, left fingertips, and then push more into the right hand, push into the left heel, work on straightening the left leg. So you'll be feeling a bit of a stretch at the upper top hamstring. So keep pushing into that right palm, like you're still trying to rotate the torso out towards the left. Then when you're done, bring the arm back, down to the front thigh, support your weight, and come up to standing. Okay, let's move on. That was reverse Trikonasana, so Trikonasana Parivrita rather than the intense Trikonasana or Untitled Trikonasana that we practiced last week. Okay, so just for fun, we're going to do the three-pointed dog. So this is a down dog with a slight little difference, so it's an exercise in down dog. So we're going to take the down dog position. Maybe you should watch me demonstrate first. And then we're going to push more into the right hand so we can take the left hand off the floor and point the hand back so the fingertips are touching the big toes. And then pull with that left hand, see if we can get the left knee on top of the left elbow. So we're pushing into the right palm, pulling with the left palm, and then legs position still the same, trying to squeeze the tailbone up towards the ceiling. And then you can maybe try looking underneath the right shoulder, so rotating out to the right. So this kind of like supports you a little bit like it did in the reverse triangle. Ease out the hips a little bit, then we'll change sides, taking the right fingertips back to the right toes, pushing to the left palm to bring the knee on top of the elbow, and then pulling with the right palm, pushing into the left palm. So you should be getting more stretch on the lower hamstrings and maybe even to the back of the knees. Don't overstretch the back of the knees, keep a micro bend on the knees so you're not damaging the anterior cruciate ligament at the back of the knee. So pulling with that right palm, pushing to the left palm, and then rotate and look underneath the left armpit. So you're also getting a nice stretch on the lower back there, a nice rotational stretch. Back to the down dog and walk out the heels, sway the hips from side to side, whatever feels good, and then come down onto your knees and sit back on your heels. So for this posture, the next one, if you have a block, please go to block. If you don't have a block, you can use a stack of books or maybe even a firm cushion. So I'm going to use 2 blocks. So it might not need to be quite that tall, but probably 3 inches or so would be the right height. So we're going to put the sit bone, the right sit bone, on the front left corner of the block stack, and the left sit bone is going to be resting on the left heel, or at least the glute muscle will be against the left heel. So maybe not the sit bone completely, but we're in this half straddle position. So the right sit bone supported firmly by the blocks or by the books or whatever you have, and we're in this half hanuman position. So working with the breath, we're taking the gaze forward, out and up, and then exhale, hinging at the hips. Inhale, gaze out, forward and up, exhale, hinging at the hips. And now you'll feel a nice stretch on the right hamstring. Inhaling, exhaling. So as you inhale, you can pull the mat towards you to start to assist with getting the small of the back through towards the belly button. As the chest comes up and the gaze comes up. Exhale, just let go of everything, hinging at the hips, but keep the straight line in the back. So inhaling and exhaling.
we just keep working into that posture. So you can take your hands forward. We're not really sort of taking too much weight, but this is a pull. So it's like with the cobra, we're not actually resting into the arms, but we're just allowing the torso to fold forward as much as it can. So you could do it without the hands on the floor, just resting lightly or even off the floor. But if you pull the mat towards you, that assists slightly. Inhaling, exhaling. Inhaling and exhaling. So you get to a point where you can't get any further forward with the flat back, and this is your edge, this is where you work. So this is where you're really improving your physiology, encouraging new growth, new strengthening, new flexibility. Just work gently on the edge without overdoing anything, without straining, without pain. Not trying to get all the results today. It's building gradually, layer by layer. Additional strengthening, additional flexibility, additional resilience, additional suppleness. So once you feel you've got all the stretch out of there you're going to ever get today, then you can round forward, taking the head towards the knees. Or wherever you come to. So if you're on 2 blocks, it might now be too high once you're folding forward. For me, that's actually too low, so I need to prop that slightly. 2 blocks is too high, 1 block is a little bit too low for me. And rounding forward, taking the head towards me. Just experiment with the flex in the foot. See, once you've got the heel on your knee, see how much flex you can bring into the foot without overdoing the work that you're doing on the edge between the 2 sets of muscles. So in the forward fold, we're relaxing forward, and as we breathe in, we're breathing into the back of the ribs, exhaling for softening forward, inhaling and exhaling. So the movement keeps going like this. Instead of in the beginning, it's going like this. Inhaling and exhaling, inhaling and exhaling. Once we're in the forward fold, it's a different motion to this. One movement with each breath. So when you're ready, inhaling, coming upright. So if you want to come into the full posture, you may do, so you can then come up onto the left knee, slide the right foot forward as far as it can go, sliding onto the heel, and taking the hands either side. Then from here you can tuck the left toes and then push into the toes, lifting the left leg, and work on straightening both legs with as much of a flat back as possible. So we're working towards the straddle split. And then when you're ready, coming back to do the other side. So sit back on your heels, move the blocks or books over to the other side. And we're going to extend the left leg, left sit bone to the front corners of the blocks, and sitting up nice and tall. So maybe just a few little hip circles in this position. Ideally the foot is flexed with the toes pointing back towards your face, and then you can be pushing down through the back of the heel to help bring the spine up, and this should be giving you an initial stretch at the back of the hamstring. So inhaling, gaze forward, out and up. Exhaling, hinging. Inhaling, exhaling. And again, you can pull the mat towards you to assist with the inhale, gaze forward, out and up. Exhale. Inhale, exhale. Keep working with the breath until you reach your full extent that you get to with a flat back and a straight leg. And a straight leg, one extended leg. So once you've been working for about 5 breaths, you might find a little bit of extra stretch. Just because it felt stuck for a short while doesn't mean you haven't got a little bit further to go. Inhaling, exhaling, inhaling, the time we're just like shaving a little bit of tension off of that edge, softening it, adapting it, and teaching yourself how to manage your own physiology, look after your own physical self. So there'll come a point where you now can't go any further forward. We've held that for about 5 breaths or 40 seconds, and then we're going to round forward and breathe into the back of the ribs. Exhaling to round forward. Inhale, breathe into the back, exhale, round forward. And once you've got your full forward fold, experiment with flexing the foot more or rotating the legs side to side slightly. So trying through the 4 different hamstring muscles at the back. And then when you're ready, coming up to seated if you want to, coming for the full hanuman stretch onto the right knee, slide the left heel away, hands either side, tuck the toe on the right, toe at the back, and then pushing the right knee up towards the ceiling, straightening out both legs and working on flattening out the back. And then resting when you're ready, and coming back to sit on the heels. Okay, so we're going to come into our final posture. We've overrun slightly, but I hope that's okay. So we're going to just come into an Ardha Matsyendrasana seated twist, or a series of those. So I'm just going to move forward a little bit. So if you have a block, it's easier if you elevate your hips on the block. So we'll start in a comfortable seated cross-leg position, and then take the left heel to the front right corner of the block, and then hop that right foot over the left front thigh. If you have the right sit bones lifting off the blocks, then you should extend this left leg out straight, so, and come back to this seated position. If you can do it without the sit bones lifting, you can bring this left heel to the outside front corner of the block on the right. So inhale, sitting up tall, exhale, forward fold with the flat back, and taking the left elbow around the right knee, and then inhale, sitting up. So you've got to push into this right heel a little bit. We're going to take the inside of the wrist against the sacrum bone on the block and pushing up nice and tall. And then exhale, twist. Look over the right shoulder. Each inhale, we push up a bit taller. Each exhale, twist. Inhale to sit up tall, exhale to twist. And then when you're ready, coming back round to centre, right elbow to the inside of the right knee, right hand holds the right ankle from the inside, left hand comes behind, inside of the wrist against the sacrum bone. Inhale, sit up tall, exhale, twist. Inhale, sit up tall, exhale, twist. Inhale, sit up tall, exhale, twist. And then come back round to centre. So we're going to change sides, taking the right heel to the front left corner of the block, and hop the left foot over the front right thigh, sit up tall, lean forward with the flat back, hold around the knee, and sit upright. Take the inside of the wrist against the sacrum bone, full length of the forearm against your spine, so that you're using your forearm like a second spine, holding you up nice and tall, and then exhale, twist and look over your left shoulder. Inhale to push up tall, exhale, twist around further to the left. Inhale to push up tall, exhale, twist further around to the left. So you sink and twist at the same time. Inhale, push up, nice and straight. And then when you're ready, coming back round to the left, left elbow to the inside of the left knee, left hand holding the left ankle, right hand behind, sitting up tall, exhale, twist. Inhale, sit up tall, exhale, twist. Inhale, sit up tall, exhale, twist. And then coming back round to centre. And today we're going to end in a seated cross-leg position. So we'll just do a few little hip circles in this position. And we'll take meditation posture. So backs of the hands to the knees. Forefinger thumb connected in Dhyan Mudra. Eyes closed or soft. Spine nice and upright. Feeling the breath flowing down, filling the lungs, expanding the diaphragm, pressing down to the belly. Belly softens and moves out as you breathe in. And then the belly muscles start tensing very gently from the pubic bone upwards towards the ribs on the exhale. Just following the breath in and out. So softening to allow the breath in. And just tensing just that little bit slightly and a ripple up the front of the belly to chase the breath out. Not really chasing, but just following. Just maintaining contact with the breath and feeling that contact in the sinuses as the breath flows in, at the nostrils as the breath flows out and dissolves into the atmosphere. So maintaining a very soft and gentle fluid contact, like dipping your fingers in water as you follow the breath. So following the breath with your attention, stroking the breath, the muscular engagement, just very gently, flowing in and flowing out, inhaling and exhaling. And just feel those breaths calming and relaxing you. At the same time, wherever you stretch muscles, wherever you've moved muscles, feel those strengthening, building new connections, building new sensitivity, building new knowledge and awareness of your own physiology. And then come back to a seated position, flip the eyes open, bring the hands together in prayer at the heart center, and bow the head to the fingertips. Namaste.